Isuf here, and guys, I got for you a Q&A video answering your questions. Straight to the point, less chit chat, the better. Let's get right into it. What is the most important thing to do, in your opinion, to maintain as much muscle mass as possible while cutting? Well, it's simple. You want to keep your calories as high as possible. You never want to drop them too quickly. So 3 things. Keep your calories high, focus on strength, and when you're doing conditioning work, cardiovascular work, make sure it counts. So make sure it has some transference over to your athletic performance. And that's why I recommend sprints, prowler, sled drags, and things of this nature. So 3 things. Strength, anabolic conditioning, and keeping your calories high. Does the overhead press work the medial, you mean lateral, and posterior delt enough to keep the shoulder in balance with the front deltoid? Well, understand actually that the overhead press is more anterior front deltoid dominant. In your overall training structure, you should have a balance between pushing and pulling, and that will develop a balanced shoulder. In and of itself, an overhead press is more front deltoid dominant than it is posterior. How do you get your hair so full and majestic looking, Omar? I want your full ritual. Son, I was born this way, or I'll say head and shoulders if they're willing to pay me enough. I'm coming for your job, Troy Palamahu. Yo, Omar, what is up? Tips on vacation and maintaining my muscle. I get fat as fuck and I can't control my diet when I'm away at home. I'll give you 3 rules, son. 1, avoid alcohol. I don't mean, you gotta control it, but people go off the rails when they're on vacation and drink a lot more than normal. Keep it under control, have a good time, right? They are calories. 2, sauces. You don't know what's in those sauces. The tzatziki, it looks delicious. They're usually calorically heavy, and so they're harder to track. So I would tend to avoid sauces. And lastly, 3, carbohydrates. We love them. You want to have a good time. You want to release those feel-good hormones. But sometimes we can eat too much when we're not tracking calories effectively. And you're on vacation. It's hard, so you got to guesstimate. So I would try and minimize the total amount of carbs that you eat, and instead focus on lean sources of meat, vegetables, and then a side assortment of carbohydrates rather than just plowing down on a pizza. Any good assistance exercises to increase my overhead press? Great question. I like your question. It takes forever, honestly, to add 5 pounds to your overhead press. It is the hardest of the 4 movements, the bench, overhead press, squat, and deadlift, to increase. But I'll say 3 different movements. 1, the Bradford press, because the problem for most people is to get from here to up here on the overhead press. So the Bradford press is great for helping to strengthen that area. 2 would be the push press. That's great for developing explosiveness, and if you control the negative portion, not a tempo count of, let's say, 5 seconds, but you explode up and then try and relatively control it on the way down. It's great for building the pop once again off the bottom right here. And lastly, 3, the third exercise I would have to recommend would be, well, it's a specialty one, but anything that works on direct tricep work, keeping the elbows tucked in. Too often when people overhead press, they'll tend to flare out the elbows and it turns into a wide press. You want to focus on keeping those elbows in. So either a neutral grip, dumbbell overhead press, or, like in my gym, the football bar press will help. Yo, Omar, how can I develop bigger glutes? Well, you've asked the right person. The glutes of steel right here representing. A lot of different things, man. You gotta do some deep squats. Get that squat booty going on. Heavy ass deadlifts, sumo deadlifts as well. If you want to do a direct exercise, a lot of people will say, hey, the glute ham raise is great. I agree, but it's more hamstring dominant. If you want an assistance exercise for that bootay, I would recommend the hip thrust, the barbell hip thrust. Learn how to engage your hips, son. You'll thank me later. Supplements. What do I really need to take? And test boosters, are they worth it? I've answered this question a million times. Let's go again. Test boosters, not worth it. Supplements, if you're a beginner, so less than 1 year experience training, you don't need them. But if you're an intermediate lifter, then creatine and beta-alanine are the 2 supplements I recommend on a regular basis for those that are trying to get stronger and build muscle mass. Yeah, I answered a lot of questions in this video in a very short period of time. If you got questions, you better get on my Facebook fan page. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching. Show your love. And like this video. Not a subscriber, you know you should be subscribed. Nation of Buffness, I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Stay strong. I get fat as fuck when I'm away from home. Well, you gotta learn how to eyeball your macros and get a little bit more self-control. You will be able over time. It's a funny question. I'm picturing a guy gaining like 20 pounds. You should, with time, be... I can't fucking answer this one.